You dig what I'm saying? If they all hollers, I'm a counterfeit. Yeah, I wanted money, I couldn't enjoy class.
It's your boy, yadiiiigg, 4 I's, 2 G's, and today we're here to discuss underground rap. And I've been asked this question time and time again, and I think it's finally time to discuss it. The idea or the topic or the question of underground rap going mainstream. Can underground rap even go mainstream? And if so, what is stopping it from going mainstream right now? Before we dive in, I just want to say firstly that this is a discussion of what I think needs to happen, or what I have observed. In no way, shape, or form am I saying that there is anything wrong with being an underground artist, nor am I suggesting that people like Bones, Suicide Boys, and Puya want to go mainstream and leave the underground. I'm simply addressing the question directly rather than for a specific artist. So please don't look for the negative in what I'm saying in this video. This is just an open discussion from me to you, so make sure to let me know what you think because I'm always interested. Also guys, before we get in, make sure to follow me on all social medias. You know how it goes: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. But let's get it. And let's get straight to the point. Do I think a man who types in X type beats on YouTube, looks for the one with the most distorted bass, and then repeatedly screams fuck life will be going to the mainstream anytime soon? No. And all jokes aside, there are certain artists or sounds that are prevalent in the underground that will most likely never go mainstream. And it's not hard to figure out why. Things like heavily distorted bass, suicidal and depressive subject matters, and songs without choruses generally aren't friendly to mainstream ears. But you didn't need me to tell you that, and that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to address artists in the same vein as Puya, Fat Nick, Denzel Curry, and to a lesser extent artists like Bones and Suicide Boys. And the answer is yes, especially for the first crop of artists I mentioned, your Puyas and your Fat Nicks. There is nothing about their music that inherently stands out as being not mainstream or radio friendly. Their songs often feature trap influenced production, their flows are nice and easy to bob your head along to, and they often talk about your standard braggadocious rap topics. And although I wouldn't say all their choruses are smash hits in the making, they can definitely come up with a solid hook that gets stuck in your head. These underground acts represent a sound that has a mainstream appeal, and I'll be using this mainstream friendly sound in the underground as the base for this video. In addition to this, certain works from acts like Suicide Boys and Bones also have this mainstream friendly vibe to them, although it's obvious that a lot of their music is just not as mainstream friendly as someone like Puya's, for example. So now that we've gotten that out the way, let me put forth my point on what I think is holding back certain underground acts from transitioning to the mainstream. I think the biggest thing holding back underground artists from reaching the mainstream is a portion of their fan base that is cancerous and subscribes to the mindset of the underground is the best place for an artist to be. I never want my artist to sign, I never want them to leave the underground, and I never want them to work with anyone but underground artists. If you've ever thought to yourself, I don't want artists XYZ to blow up because I like them being underground and I don't want other people knowing about them, I'm talking to you. If you've ever thought to yourself, I hope this artist never collaborates with the mainstream artist, when you haven't heard more than a song from that artist or the collaboration between the two, I'm talking to you. And lastly, if you've ever thought to yourself, I would stop listening to an underground artist like Puya if they ever signed a label deal, I'm talking to you. Notice how I said stop listening to them if they signed. You can think that decision is a bad one, and that's fine, but if you would actually stop listening to their music over it, that's another thing entirely. And those are just 3 things such fans would say, and these types of sentiments run rampant online. I'm going to refer to this as the quote underground curse, where fans prescribe to the idea that being an underground artist that remains unsigned and collaborates mainly within the underground scene holds some sort of artistic credibility, artistic authenticity, or artistic leg up, as opposed to another artist who is signed, gets played on the radio, or that they think represents the ideals of the industry or mainstream music. And there is no way to tell exactly how many of these fans exist. However, what they may lack in numbers, they make up for in sheer noise, and they always think they are entitled to control their artist's actions and put their 2 cents in on what type of music they would like that artist to make, what other artists they would like that artist to work with, and what moves they would like that artist to make. But now to explain how this affects underground artists transitioning to the mainstream. Let's bring it back to 2016 when Puya and Lil Yachty hit the studio together. Now, if you were in the shoes of Puya, you were thinking this is a huge opportunity for yourself. You haven't really collaborated with any mainstream artist before, and Lil Yachty's buzz is so gigantic at this point that it will give me millions of listeners that possibly have never heard my name before, and this was a huge opportunity for him and could really have been his breakout moment. Now, this is the kind of response he was met with when he posted a picture of a tweet from Lil Yachty on his Facebook. Don't get me wrong, not every single response is negative, but the majority of them are suggesting it's a bad idea, that he shouldn't do it, and in general condemning the collaboration. I mean, just look at a few of these comments here, and this isn't on some random Facebook page either. This is Puya's own page with his own fans. Normally the hate you see on Facebook is when some random media outlet with a wide audience posts information, but rarely do you see anywhere near this amount of hate on an artist's own page. Now, if you saw that kind of response from your fanbase, would you want to put out the song? At the very least, seeing this type of response would make you think twice and cause you to hesitate. And did we ever see this Yachty Puya collab? No. And am I contributing this completely to the backlash from his audience? No. But could it have played a part? I think so. And this isn't the first time we've seen this happen either. We saw it happen when Rocky hopped on Bones' Dirt and remixed it for At Long Last ASAP. People were going at Bones' neck for this and were labeling him a sellout. Even though if you look at the Google data for searches of quote Bones rapper, Bones benefited from that move, and as much as people will try to deny this and argue this, just look at the data. Also, I vividly remember that release period because I had been fucking with Bones for a while before that even happened. And then not too long after the Rocky cosign, like 3 or 4 of his videos had over 1 million views, and my friends were asking about him who never even liked him before. Now, do I think Bones is only big because of Rocky? No, and I'm not here to disrespect Bones like that because I've been a fan of him for years now and I know the grind he has had. But I'm also not oblivious and I realize that this cosign helped him grow. Yet, there were people who wanted to shoot him down for that, the underground curse fans who were the most vocal. And this is part of the reason as to why I think these fans hinder underground artists' ability to grow into the mainstream. They would rather pigeonhole them to strictly underground acts and limit their potential to flourish. The second part of this underground curse is the hatred of labels. Underground artists are constantly reminded by their fanbase that they don't need labels and it's always fuck a deal. Now, do I think some of the hatred towards labels is warranted? Absolutely, I am not here to defend labels. And secondly, do I think all artists, whether underground or not, should sign to labels? No, for an artist like Bones, a label would be able to do very little he couldn't already do with his team right now. But for this point, we are talking directly to your Puyas and your Denzels, that underground artists with a mainstream friendly sound. And for the most part at least, if you want to be on the radio, you are going to need a label. Unless your song is just too popular to ignore, like Made in Tokyo's Uber Everywhere, or your presence as an artist is on the level of a Chance or Mac Miller, who have both received radio play as independents. A label is genuinely needed to not only push those potential hits to radio, but to organize interviews at the radio stations, help with marketing, etc, etc. And I know this seems like I must be getting paid on the low by some label for this video, but remember the topic: can the underground go mainstream? Well, to go mainstream means to be getting radio play. To go mainstream means to be getting those big interviews. To go mainstream means to have platinum and gold plaques, and in general be getting those big industry looks. And labels, whether you like it or not, can help artists with all these things. Again, I make sure to reiterate, am I saying it's a good idea for any artist to sign to any label? No, because I fully understand and realize a few things. A, not all labels are good. B, not all deals are good. And C, labels can fuck artists over, and I'm not denying that. If Bones was to sign with Def Jam tomorrow, will Rest in Peace be getting radio play and be all over the charts? No, but for an artist who has that mainstream friendly sound already, a label could definitely help with that transition from the underground to the mainstream. And this brings me to my point: the underground has an unnecessary level of hatred towards labels. Smoke Perp was a recent artist who signed to a label coming from the Florida scene, and look at the responses from this tweet. And that was for Smoke Perp, an artist who hadn't even been around for that long and wasn't really deep in the underground scene. Could you imagine Puya's timeline if he signed? It would be full of hella fuck yous. How dare you do this? How dare you do that? How dare you turn your back on the underground? You sell out this and you sell out that. And I get it, and I understand why people think like this. However, if you would like an underground artist to be on the radio, gain a larger fan base outside of the underground, and to continue to grow, a label can help with that, and I think some fans just can't accept it. Also, I am not suggesting underground artists should sign. What I'm saying is, if they do, there shouldn't be this huge backlash, because in the end they are only trying to better their careers. And the biggest reason I think underground artists don't sign to labels labels is due to fear of backlash from their core audience. This fuck labels and fuck mainstream artists train of thought has been ingrained so heavily within the underground culture that it has turned the underground into a place that is so hard to get out of and to grow from. Because when an opportunity comes by for an artist to potentially grow with the underground curse comes, and their desire to run their favorite artist's career according to their skewed ideals drags them back down. Like Puya's collab with Lil Yachty, instead of possibly looking past their hatred for Yachty and going, oh, this actually might help Puya grow, get more money and expand, they are too selfish to see the bigger picture, and they are too focused on what they want instead of looking at what is good for the artist. And the same thing happens with labels. Not all labels are evil and not all deals are bad, and labels can do a lot to help artists. And if they ever want our underground artists who have that mainstream friendly sound to grow with the underground and possibly transition to the mainstream, the underground fanbase needs to let them take the opportunities that are in front of them. Because now that X has kind of broken that barrier from the underground to the mainstream, more eyes than ever before are on the underground. And we've seen this with the media outlets. Genius and Pigeons and Planes are hopping onto the bandwagon and are now covering artists like Suicide Boys and Puya when they never did before. So I urge you, if you have that fuck labels, fuck mainstream artist mentality, give your artist some space and freedom to chase opportunities to grow. Because if one artist from the underground grows and makes that transition, it breaks down barriers and makes it easier for the next one. And once that next one happens, that then makes it easier for the next, and so on and so forth. So all in all, can the underground ever go mainstream? Absolutely. There is nothing inherently not mainstream friendly about certain artists and sounds within the underground right now. However, I do think at this point the underground curse and the mindset of certain underground fans is holding back the underground from transitioning to the mainstream. Alright guys, that brings us to the end of this video for today. Thanks a lot for watching. As always, I'm super interested to know what you guys think, so make sure to let me know in the comments. Also, make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on all social medias for more.